Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a live stream Sunday. Just wanted to check out how you guys are doing today. And I would like to ask you guys a couple of questions in regards to programming. And hopefully you guys can see what's inside of my simulator right now with the very first question of how old were you when you first started coding? So just wanted to do this to get a little bit of feedback and open up the platform so that you guys can answer some of the questions, and hopefully this will be an interesting live stream. Otherwise we'll just delete it and pretend it never happened. So yeah, typically we have these Sunday live streams, and sometimes I'll have things to talk about, sometimes I won't. Today seems like one of those days where I don't really have too much to say, and that's why I would like to kind of open it up to you guys, and then I'll go over some of the comments, I guess that's what they're called, and basically some of the responses from you guys, and tell exactly how you guys are answering these questions. Because I know when I first started programming, I had a lot of quandary or queries about the mentors that I was following and what kind of background they had. So today I would like to start out with the very first question. Again, that is, how old were you when you first started coding? So let's see. Again, this is part of the Tinder demo application thing. And we can start swiping left and right like that. My computer is really lagging right now. I think I have too many things going on. So let's see, turn off a photo booth. That's the worst program to have opened up. Okay, so let me start off up at the very top. And also let me know where you guys are coming from today. That way I can kind of get a good idea as to the demographic that's joining the live streams on Sunday. Okay, so a lot of people are saying 18 from Omer. We have Jorge with 15. That's typically what I would expect the age range to be around when we're talking about programming. I feel like 15 is a little bit on the young side, but I'm not super surprised. 19 seems like it's a little too late to be starting programming, actually. Well, not too late, but in terms of the people that I know that do this professionally, they start around 16 and 17. So, it's never too late. And I think 19 is a good starting age. 19 with Java at college, good. So for me, I started when I was about 18, probably 17 or 18, and I first started using ActionScript 3.0, actually ActionScript 2.0 for the Flash runtime. Some of you guys that are old enough can remember Flash. A lot of games are still actually using Flash on the internet to run on. So we have 17. I have 19, and I started at 18. We have Bruce Nell, he started at 22. Yeah, so 22 is what I find to be a little bit older on the programming spectrum, which is really surprising, right? You wouldn't think that 22 would be that old, but some kids start off as early as 14. But the good thing about starting off older is that you probably will appreciate programming more, and I think you'll be able to pick up some of the small nuances between different languages faster, because you have a better understanding as to what to expect. So that's kind of the difference. So I have 27, 14, 13, 17. First programming language is BASIC. What's up from Singapore? We have 17, and now Ryan Tan is 24. So that's good. 17 for the United States is probably when we are in our senior years of high school. So in the US, we have elementary school from 1st grade to 6th grade, and then middle school from 7th to 8th, and high school goes from 9th grade to 12th grade. So there's 4 years of high school, and you're typically 16 or 17 years old when you graduate. No, let me take that back. Maybe you're around 17 to 18. I think I graduated when I was 17 and a half. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so we have 19. See, we have all these young lads starting really, really early, somewhere in college. 15, and I started about 10 years old. So 10 years old is actually not too surprising either. I know a lot of parents that really want their kids to get into programming early. They'll send their kids to these little tiny mini mentoring stations where they teach programming and then they teach all these mathematics and sciences. So actually more and more of these places exist now, especially in the Silicon Valley, because programming is such a hot topic. 15, so 17. Okay, first programming language, learning to code now. That's good. It's really never too late to start learning how to code. But it's always better when you start early, because things are just easier when you have kind of like a longer start time to kind of get to where you want to be. Starting at 22. Okay. Wow. Okay, where are we at? Holy Lord. Man, we have a lot of comments today. Okay, 22. Wasted a year, then learned JavaScript, and then Go, and then Rust. That's good. That's good. A lot of languages, and I've been getting a lot of questions on the channel about like what's the best language to learn. Really, there's no right answer to that. The best language to learn is actually the one that you have most access to, and the one that you find the most fun to program in. If you're taking someone else's recommendations for like, oh, I think this is the best language because I know how to do this, this, and this in that language, then it doesn't really exactly like, you can't relate to those things because you might not be interested in building those specific like projects and features out. So whatever you find most fun is going to be the best one to go with. 20 when I first started, first programming with this C language. Okay, awesome. Let me check on the live stream status here to see how many people there are. We have 100 people watching, which is good. Awesome to have you join me on a Sunday morning. I typically hold these streams a little later in the day, but kind of woke up and I had really nothing to do. Well, I had a ton of stuff to do, but I couldn't really go back to sleep. So just wanted to start off my day early and have a little chat with you guys. How do you learn multi-teach? Well, how do you learn single teach? I don't really know what this question means. So we have 20, 34, it's good. Start learning HTML. HTML is a programming language. Not really, but if you're building out HTML pages, you're most likely using JavaScript, and JavaScript is a decent programming language. JavaScript is a really strange language because it's like such a cross between design, building out the browser thing, and then actual real programming. It's like 30, 30, 30. Yeah. Started at 10 and now you're 11. Awesome. Oh, is Sean having his live stream right now too? Sean stream to answer this, and now Swift. Oh, cool. You can go back to the stream now. So some of you that don't know, Sean Allen has live streams on every Sunday too, and I think typically he holds it around this time. So I think we're kind of stomping on each other's live streams, but so that's how YouTubers roll. I was 18 years old when I first started learning C. Tampa, Florida, Queens, New York. We have Denmark. Greetings from India. So we have 18, 17. Algeria. We have 14 learning C. 17 years old. 16. We have some 13. Some people started at 9. 16, 10. Now working at Swift as a trainee. 14. See, a lot of kids start really early these days, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, we have a majority of people starting around 5 to 10 years old, because programming is just it's such a huge thing for now and also for the next 10 to 20 years. It's amazing how the world is changing right now, and how the school curriculums will also be modified to accommodate a programming kind of a programming discipline, so that kids can get on a faster track onto graduating with a programming degree and getting a job and improving society. Starting when I was 12 with Python, 14, 17. Awesome. All right, so we have a Swift question popping into the chat. So I don't know if I'm going to answer too many Swift questions today, because there's just going to be a lot of questions that I'm going to be asking you guys in the live stream. So Mark says, start professionally at 30 and a career switch. Yeah, switching careers is difficult. I mean, for me, even switching jobs, like switching companies, is a difficult thing to do, because once you get comfortable and you get hired on as full-time, you start to just get really complacent about your career, and you don't really want to go out into the real world and search for another job again. And so switching a career is even harder. Like, think about the risks that you're taking, and you really have to balance out, is it, like, are the trade-offs worth it for this new career? And I mean, like, for me, switching into YouTube was a big switch, but I never really had too many concerns about my future. Everything seems to have worked out pretty well for me, like pretty much my entire life. So, you know, until I run into like an epic fail or an epic wall, I'll probably just keep doing whatever I want to do. Started at 26, now I'm 31. Started at 10, now I'm 13. Started with C at university at 18. Yeah, so the most, I guess the most popular language to start out with, especially from an academic background, is the C programming language. And then it probably comes down to either Java or C++, or I think now they teach a lot of C#. Java at 18, yep. Okay, so a lot of streamers coming in. So let me move on to the next question, so I don't bore you guys too much with this one. And this is kind of how the app works. If I swipe it over, we have these labels come up. And yesterday I was working on a coffee shop with how to cycle through all of these images, kind of like that, based on where you click on the stack or the card, or basically this image right here. You have to detect if you're in the middle, and if you fall on the left side and you fall on the right side, you kind of swap depending on where you are. So that's a fun feature to build out, which I'll show you guys how to do eventually when I get all of this stuff squared away. Okay, so this is kind of related to the other question, which is, what was your first programming language? And some of you have already stated what that is. I think it's like a lot of C and Java. And I think that's, yeah, mostly the popular ones out there. Yeah, going back to the HTML question, I wouldn't exactly consider, like, if you're using HTML, that's good. But if you actually talk to a real programmer and you say, oh yeah, I know how to program, I do HTML, they will not have a good response for you. Is there racism in the US? Should I go on a rant about racism? Yeah. I guess I'll talk about my experience on YouTube in terms of racism. Sometimes every now and then I get these questions about, oh, it's kind of funny, this guy knows how to speak English really well on his channel. I'm really surprised this guy that looks Asian, he's speaking in this funny language, English, which he should not be able to speak in. Well, I feel like whenever I read these comments like that, it really feels like I've traveled back in time like 50 years. It's kind of funny. So I guess that's the extent of racism that I experience on YouTube. And I live in the Bay Area, the San Francisco, Silicon Valley area, and so it's heavily mixed with a lot of different backgrounds. So a a lot of Chinese, a lot of Indians now coming in, like Indians. And then we have a lot of like people from Europe, and then what else? Chinese, just from every parts of the world. So racism here isn't as prevalent as somewhere else, like in the Midwest of the United States. So that's kind of how it is over here. I have some stories about racism that I would maybe discuss in a future video. That some really bad experiences with racism. And then yeah, maybe I'll share that in the future sometime when my channel becomes super popular and we talk about things other than programming. First language was Python, then JavaScript, now going everywhere. Basically learning Swift and C# for work. Yeah, so these are the major programming languages right now: Java, Swift, and C#. 16. Started when I was 21. C# first language is C. 18. Did you have your coffee? Oh Lord, too many comments today. Oh man, I feel like I'm not gonna get through all of this. Oh Lord, why did I decide to go with this setup today? Okay, so we have 18. Did I have my coffee yet? I'm trying to give up on coffee a little bit and maybe have only coffee twice a week. And that seems to be working out, so far. And it hasn't been too rough yet. So 20 years old. Waiting for your next tutorials on core data. Please make some videos on it. So in terms of that core data course, I haven't really decided on anything new to introduce to the course. So if you can email me or give me some ideas as to what you want to learn, then I'll consider making more video lessons on it. Yeah. So Swift is my favorite. Yeah, 35 years old from TARS. Yeah. 35 is an age of some of the students in my physical bootcamp courses, and they learned at a different pace, which is kind of funny. Like in the beginning, they don't older people trying to learn programming in the beginning, they're kind of slower at it. And then what I've noticed is that after the first initial kind of ramp on period, then they start to become as fast as the rest of the students. So that's what I've noticed in my experience. So we have C++. Kotlin is my favorite language. I think Kotlin itself is, in terms of the difficulty of learning Kotlin, I feel like it's, so I think C is a pretty easy language to learn because it's just very basic. And then maybe Objective-C. And then we have Swift being a little bit more, I guess, difficult to learn. Like I would consider Swift to be a harder language to learn than Objective-C. And then we have languages like Kotlin after Swift. And then after that is something like, I don't know, Scala. So then I would consider like Golang somewhere between Scala and like in the Kotlin difficulty level. Yeah, a lot of difficulty has to do with how much documentation and how many blog posts are out on the internet. Like if you have people explain the language really well with features that are practical, then it's really easy to learn. Otherwise, it's just really hard. Like imagine just trying to learn JavaScript without these real world examples. You'd be pretty bummed out trying to figure out how it works. 22 from Taiwan. Jamie Chang, nice. Swift is your favorite language. I'm not surprised that Swift is a favorite language for a lot of the viewers on this channel. So, starting at 20, cool. We have 14 with Dart Basic. I never actually learned Basic. Maybe I'll eventually get to that. Probably won't happen, but maybe. We have 18. We have 16 in Swift. India 19. Cool. People from India. 18. Who is better, Java or Kotlin? So you want to say which is better, or what is better, or which is the better programming language, Java or Kotlin? I like to correct people's English, even though my English is not all that great. I like to point out the errors and mistakes in a sentence whenever I can. We have 18 with PHP. Now that's a strange language to start out with, PHP. You don't really see a lot of that because people typically start off with JavaScript and then get into PHP, because otherwise what's the need of PHP? First programming language, Java. Yeah. Fortran is something that I've never been able to learn or never had the chance to get into. I don't think I've ever seen the Fortran programming language, like the actual syntax. I don't think I've ever seen it before. So hopefully I'll, maybe that's a good thing. Yeah. So sometimes I get this comment about people wanting to get into iOS development, but they don't have enough cash on hand to buy a physical Apple computer. That's kind of unfortunate, but that's the ecosystem that Apple has set up. Yeah, my computer was really expensive at $2,500, and I've considered buying the new MacBook Pro, which is that gray one with the touch bar, and that's like $3,500, the one I'm looking at. So I might just build my own computer and build my own Hackintosh, just to make it make the cost a little bit more bearable. And the Hackintosh is actually a lot faster, but it's just a pain in the ass to deal with. I'm at 18, 22 in university right now. I just started learning C++. Cool. So 22, started at 3 months. Learning Swift, making me feel bad about 22, bro. We had our apartheid stuff here. Some groups had access to things, others didn't. Yeah. That's the other thing about just having access to things is really important. And so when the country that you're living in is putting a kind of a lockdown on technology, what's available to learn, what the internet is able to provide you, then those limitations will really make it difficult for you to actually start programming. So luckily for people like me in the United States, it's more accessible, this information. And yeah, so starting early in the United States is something that's a lot easier to do than other countries. Yeah. So I didn't really mean anything about 22 being old. It's just on average. Yeah. What's the difference between game programming and app development? Well, one's harder than the other. I'll let you decide which one it is. 25, 28, learning Java. Am I effed? No, not really. Like a lot of people that start off programming really, really young, they never get into it as much as they should. So if you're older, then you're a little bit wiser. You know that you really need to spend a lot of time in it. So 5 to 10 hours a day on a programming language is typically what I would recommend. Do your paid courses go deeper into Swift logic and algorithms? By the way, great content, learning a lot. So the idea, as you can kind of tell by the name of the channel and everything that's been put out there, a lot of the videos that I put out is the entire concept is to build out a application that you want to learn how to build out. And I don't really talk about things unless it is relevant to a project or an application. So most of the time I do dive pretty deep. I dive a lot deeper in the paid courses because it's a lot of fun to dive deep. And I try to dive as deep as I can without losing most people. And on the YouTube channel, sometimes I do lose people as I go too deep. 19. Okay, so let me get to the next question before you guys start to get bored here. So let me swipe out here. So why do you want to become a developer? Now, for me, I want to become a developer because I realized really early on that working with computers is really, really fun. Like, I started building out my own computers when I was like 16 or 17. And then I got into programming and learning how to do things like animations with programming. And then so one thing led to another. Animation started to become like building out like game development. And then I always wanted to, like, when I was younger, I really maybe not loved, but I liked playing video games a lot. So being able to develop my own game was a lot of fun. And then after that, I just quickly realized that being able to write software is kind of like the new age magician, where you can literally make anything happen with code. And so kind of growing up, I just wanted to be the best developer and the best programmer, and to know how to solve any type of problem with code was what I was aspiring to become. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into programming. A little bit of an abstract idea. Okay. Do you know algorithms for professional programming? You would have to, otherwise it's really hard to get hired. So I remember working with some interns that didn't know how to solve like really simple algorithms, like not even for an interview question, but it was like related to a layout problem that we were experiencing on an iOS app, and like trying to figure out how the scroll view worked and how big the screen was the problem, and the intern wasn't able to solve it. So that kind of led to some problems with the intern, and eventually we had to let him go. So how about PWA for apps? Well, if I worked at Google, then I would know more about PWA, but I don't. Yeah. Awesome. 15 Visual Basic, 17 Visual Basic. Man, a lot of basic programmers. Oh, let's see. I have 16 Objective-C, 17 with C. C is a pretty popular language. Basic at 9, Objective-C. 14 with Visual Basic. Flask. Yeah, I haven't had the chance to learn Flask, but seems to be one of those new upcoming languages. I think it's a server-side thing. Python is my preferable language. So C#, Xamarin. Let's try learning Ruby. Geez, what mic is that? Voice is super clear on my headset. So this is, I can talk about recording gear all day long, but this is a Rode microphone, and it's kind of just going through a couple of different post-processing, I guess, effects right now. That's why the audio is coming in that way. And yeah, takes a lot of time to figure out all this recording setup. Went to school, learned Python. That's amazing. I'm the only Mexican software developer at my company. I look white/Asian though, so I haven't really experienced racism. Cool. Oh Lord. Okay, so this thing just likes to jump, and oh man. Oh, Xamarin, doing any programming, but it's a good place to start for a future web developer. Python. Awesome. 14 with Java. Cool. Microsoft with Basic. Let's see, how many of these comments do I want to go over? C was definitely my first. So again, C is a very popular programming language. Objective-C has a weird syntax compared to other C languages. I do agree with that. Nowadays, I'm learning Firebase in detail from your tutorials. Currently, I'm at episode 9. Awesome. I found out that there's so many different topics that I haven't even talked about for this channel. So I think when I eventually end 2018, we'll just have a lot more content. And yeah, people always ask me like, oh, so your YouTube channel, right? What do you do and what do you talk about? Well, I just answer, well, I talk about programming and then I teach people how to program things. And then the first couple of questions is like, well, don't you ever run out of things to talk about? And, you know, initially I thought that there would be a limit to the things that I can go over. But the more things that I talk about, the more I realize that there's just so many different details about programming that I find really interesting and I would like to talk about more. The hardest thing is to come up with like an interesting idea that people can be engaged with. Otherwise, everything becomes really boring. And so, yeah. Cool. So Pixel Guy says, one of your first Swift videos was my introduction to programming. Now I'm studying front-end web development. Big thanks to you. By the way, I'm 27. Cool. 27, never too late to get into the programming game. Okay, Scala was actually my first programming language. It's what we learned in university. So if you can program in Scala, then, you know, I tip my hat off to you. It's a really hard language to learn. Maybe it might be easier now, because when I was trying to learn Scala, it was probably 4 years ago. Never enough documentation for Scala. Please drop bead on Kotlin course. I have no idea what that means. You can put it behind a paywall like the one for iOS. I am willing to pay. You know, in the beginning of this channel, I really wanted to do mobile, Android, iOS, and then also web, React. And then at the very end, I wanted to put in server-side programming as well. But as you guys can tell, the only thing that I've really had time to allocate towards is iOS and Swift. Having produced a couple of different videos on Android with Kotlin, I just realized that doing all of this as a single person is hard. And I mean, I do like the challenge, but sometimes it gets a little bit too much for one person to handle. So I don't know where the Android stuff is going to go or what direction it's going to take, but you know, we'll just figure it out one video at a time. 12, Objective-C. I'm surprised that people start off with Objective-C. Like, unless you're really into iOS programming, I don't see a reasoning for Objective-C at all. Swift is very easy, feels natural. I don't know. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I do agree that it's very easy. Whether or not it feels natural is a different thing for me. I think it's because I come from a Java background where everything is just so strict and you have to type out everything. Like, typing out everything is what feels natural to me. And then getting into Swift and realizing that, oh, I don't have to type all this stuff. It's like, oh, it feels kind of strange. And after a while, you get really used to it. And you're like, oh, maybe this is how every other language should be. I am self-taught and JavaScript is my first language. Try to learn Python, but got bored as now I'm learning Swift and I actually enjoy app dev more than web dev, looking to get a career in iOS development. So the biggest thing about programming is that if you find the right person that is able to teach you something interesting in that programming language, like hopefully what I'm doing on this channel with Swift, then you just become more engaged in it, and then you just find that language easier to learn. I think in the future we'll have a lot of other YouTubers doing this, like what we're doing here, and a lot of other programming languages will become more and more popular. So yeah. Okay, so I am going to check on the time here. It's 9:46 for me. I'll probably start heading out around the 45-minute mark. So yeah. Wow, so we have some people starting at 9 years old with Pascal. I never learned Pascal myself. So my history is kind of like, I started out with ActionScript 2, then I went on to ActionScript 3, and then I went to college, a local community college, and started learning C. And then I started learning Java at university, and then we went to C++, and then I got out of college, and then I did C#, and then I went back to ActionScript 3, and then I went to Objective-C, and then Java for Android, and then Swift, and then React with JavaScript, I think Google Golang, and then Kotlin, and what else have I programmed in for real? I remember learning Python for a little bit at a job. Not really sure I liked it too much. And then there's this language called Groovy that we actually had to program in for Android. When you build out your Gradle file, I think that thing is written in Groovy. So when are you releasing these Tinder tutorials? Well, not exactly sure. Hopefully pretty soon. It's close to being done. I just have some things that I want to tie up. I really want to figure out if I want to do a backend feature to support all of these like users and where they come from, having to record their locations. I don't know if I'm going to do all of that. If I end up actually building that out, it's going to take a lot more time. So maybe I'll just do the front end side of the application first, and then I'll release those videos slowly, one at a time. And hopefully you guys understand that building out these courses for the YouTube channel and also for the website takes a lot of time. It might seem like when I'm recording these videos, everything is just flowing from one thing to another, like, oh, here's how you do this, and here's how you do that. And then you just type in this little bit of code, and then it just magically works, right? That seems like what's going on, but literally, most of the time, it's me fighting with the Swift programming language, and it's me building out proof of concept, seeing what feature is easiest and makes sense. And then after I get a working prototype, I break it down into something that's teachable. And most of the time, I build out features that are really hard to teach, so I don't actually make videos on it. So the entire process is very involved. And recording it, like actually sitting down or standing up, preparing the lesson for 15 to 25 minutes, coding it out live, and then trying to talk while trying to explain exactly what I'm doing while I'm coding. That itself, I don't know how long I can keep doing it. It has gotten easier over time, but at the same time, it's gotten harder because I wanted to include more things. And we'll see where I end up with on this channel. started with Arduino. So when I was teaching in Shanghai, there was this huge Arduino section in the Shanghai tech, the tech education program. And there was like 100 students inside of this entire program, and a lot of people were programming these little robotic remote cars and programming like smart AI in the cars to detect obstacles on a racetrack. And they were having a lot of fun with the Arduino language. Is it a language or is it the entire circuit board, the circuitry? I don't exactly know. Yeah. So this is the question in response to why you want to become a developer. Yeah. I love the fact that you can build your own projects. Yep. Because of higher salary than other jobs. So in some countries, people don't get paid as much as the US for programming. So it's good that I think in other countries that this is possible. So I'm going to assume that this is a Vietnamese user. Win Ngoc Tan. My parents are from Vietnam, or we are the Chinese diaspora that lived in Vietnam, and they speak Vietnamese as well as Chinese, and I grew up learning Chinese. So unfortunately, I don't know how to speak any Vietnamese. So whose life will be better in the upcoming years, a web developer or a test engineer? I don't know. I've never really enjoyed testing too much. It's not really my cup of tea, so I can't say that I would do that if I had to pick. Web development is a lot of fun because you can actually see things on the screen. So like personally for me, when I see things that I'm writing out and I actually run the code and, oh, here's what's happening, that's when I really enjoy programming. If I'm trying to run like these mundane tests, then I can't really say that I'm enjoying my job. Machine learning, maybe I'll do that. Work with computer logical things. Interest in technology, being able to build something without anything else than a computer and an internet connection. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I was able to travel like to China, Shanghai, Beijing, Taiwan, and I was able to work at the same time because all I needed was my laptop and a physical plug into the internet or wireless, and I was able to work remotely. So that's one of the huge benefits of being a programmer, being an engineer. You can do anything, anywhere in the world. 6 months of time to learn programming? I don't think so. Programming is a new hobby. Oh boy. Oh boy. 17 Python. Yeah, so way too many comments for me to actually respond to today. So I guess I'm just gonna watch the comments roll by and see what people have to say. So Hawkfly says that, to be honest, your advanced techniques and lessons is what helped me become a better programmer. I have no doubt that the content of the new series will be on the same level. Well, thank you, Hawkfly. It's good to hear your feedback. And like, to be honest, the things that I've taught so far on, like, let's just talk about the YouTube channel right now. At the time, it kind of seemed like it was more advanced, but now looking back on it, it doesn't feel like it's too difficult. And now with this Tinder series, I really wanted to get into more things like animations, which will be a little harder. So it's not that it's harder, but then there are more things involved, is probably how I would put it. So this series is going to be even more involved. So it'll be much more fun, I would say. And yeah, we'll go through it all together. So Last question here. What is your favorite thing to do while coding? So for me, I like to listen to just random music, and I find that helps me concentrate, focus, kind of settle in on the future that I need to build out. And without music, and if it's kind of dead silent, I find myself just not being able to focus on one singular task. So that's what I like to do. Okay. Bam. Yeah. So this is an interesting app, right? So let's turn it to the blue screen here. So this is what I mean by not building out the entire application. There's just nothing here. So, yeah. So does this do anything? No, it doesn't do anything. So a lot of that. No matter page through. I think I can play with this all day. Yeah. So this is actually using a scroll view. If you're not familiar with how that works, we'll go through how to work with a scroll view programmatically. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So 46 minutes in, and I think I will start my exit. Yeah. When you were in college, were you concentrating on GPA or trying to build software on your own? So I think I graduated with like a 2.9 or a 3.0 GPA in college. At like the last year, I just realized that GPA doesn't really matter so much anymore, because like in terms of programming and being able to like explain the things that I wanted to do in terms of programming, I was already really comfortable with it. So I never really cared about GPA. And after a couple of years after you graduate, you'll realize that first of all, your GPA no one really cares about anymore. No one really even talks about it. You can put like 4.5 on your resume and no one really checks if that's true or not. And secondly, when you're applying for jobs, you can put any college that you want on your resume. And again, in the US at least, most of the companies don't really check. So I'm not telling people to falsely put down like colleges that they did not attend, but this is just me stating the facts that no one actually checks, which to me means that these companies don't really care. So like other people have been caught for putting in the wrong college. Like the biggest problem is that, let's say you do get hired at a company and then later on they find out that you misreported or you falsely claimed you graduated from this other college, and they'll actually terminate you if they find out that you lied on your resume. So you have to be careful about that, obviously. So yeah. But during the interview process, no one really checks. Oh man. Okay, so it says that we have 99 people in this live stream still. I don't believe that's actually the case. And I'm kind of out of things to say and out of things to talk about. Unless you guys are interested in anything else, I think I will start to check out. Anyone that's interested in following me on Instagram, this is where I promote myself. I've been getting into Instagram more and more lately. So this is me over there. I think I'm at Built That App, similar to my Twitter account. If you want to follow me and just check check what I'm doing every day, then yeah, feel free to follow me there. Okay. Let's just answer a couple of more questions while we're here. I think I'm gonna start getting ready for basketball a little bit later. I should be at the gym at 12 o'clock, which is about 2 hours from now. So Raphael says that you said you respond to a question I sent on your website. Please do, thank you. I can't remember exactly what question that was. I get so many questions on the website, you guys don't understand. I think this was about the job search. I don't know. Like, I try to answer people the best that I can. It's just impossible with all of the questions coming in. Okay. So let me scroll up here. Do I really want to talk about any of the things up above here? I think I'm kind of out of things to talk about. So I think I'll leave you guys to whatever you guys are doing, and then I'll head out. All right, so last question. What is your native place? Born and raised in Sacramento, California. Moved out to the Bay Area, Silicon Valley when I was about 18, 19. I think I was 19. Went to the school of UC Berkeley, which is one of the, I don't know, better public universities out here. And stayed out in the Silicon Valley for the next 10 years or so. And that's what I'm doing right now. And when I was trying to program and learn, get programming jobs, start to, have more and more experience in development and programming, you find out that programming is a long journey. Yeah. So the thing about programming is that it's very unlike any other job out there. In terms of becoming a good programmer, you have to spend your entire life dedicated to this discipline. So for people that are trying to learn programming and you think that, oh, I'll just have to learn this one programming language for the next 6 months and I'll be fine and I'll get a job and I'll make a lot of money working at this job. That's rarely the case, and most people that do this, they end up not programming for very long. So throughout my 10 years in the programming field and in the industry, I've seen a lot of people that have a computer science background and programming knowledge, and a lot of them are actually not programmers. They do things like program managing. Some of them, they do testing, which is kind of programming, but some people also do, I guess, like scrum managing, and they become like managers that don't program anymore. So it's because after a while, some people just don't enjoy writing code anymore. And it's understandable. So if you want to do something that's kind of software related but not directly programming, then yeah, it'll be extremely helpful to have a programming background, and then you do it for a couple of years and then you do something else like managing. But if you're really into programming like I am, like there's a lot of people like me that's really into programming too. And so I can see myself doing it for the next 20 years, but you notice that, or I've noticed that the more I've try to get into programming because I'm passionate about it. That's not really the case as I get older. Okay. Yep. So, same question about React Native. Well, I don't know. React Native is not exactly best for people that don't understand mobile programming, because people that build out React Native apps, their apps feel really weird. Yeah, I'll just leave it as that. Hate Swift optionals. So for people that hate Swift optionals, you probably don't understand what the point of optionals are. So that's why you hate it. They're actually like something that a lot of more experienced developers need. So like professional developers actually they really want to use optionals, and way back in the day it wasn't available. So that's kind of why they made it like a mandatory thing inside of Swift. And then, after you program for a while, you understand the necessity for optionals. React Native is inherently worse than pure native. It only exists for economic reasons. That's a hard statement to argue against. Yeah, it's a really hard. It's definitely something that is like React Native is used to make teams more efficient and to save money on developers. And yeah. So Solomon says that if you're in college again, what would you do differently? I don't know. I had a really hard time in college. So the things that I would do differently is to figure out what is the quickest way out of college so that you can get your degree and move on. I don't think college is a good place to actually learn things. You find out that you learn like so much faster and so much more when you're out in the real world, that if you can just go to college for like 3 to 4 years, then just do that. I think I spent way too much time in college. The problem with college is that the way that they teach, like, yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about colleges in this video. Do I regret doing anything in my life? Yeah, there are a lot of things that I regret. There are things that I regret not doing, obviously. And those are the harder regrets to stomach, like the things that you didn't take action on. Those are the hard ones, right? Because if you regret doing something, at least you actually had the fortitude to understand what the consequences were, and you took action, and then you dealt with the consequences. For things that you didn't do, you just never know that, hey, maybe that's actually something that would have changed my life, right? So it's all about the what ifs. I try to live my life with the least amount of what ifs. And, starting out this channel was one of those big what ifs. Like, what if I didn't take the chance and start this YouTube channel? What my life would have turned out to be would be totally different, obviously. And 2 years ago, if I didn't start doing this, I would still be working at a full-time job, writing out code, probably for iOS or Android. And would I be really enjoying it? Probably not. I don't think I would. And that's one thing that I really didn't want to live with. Like, I find it hard to live with yourself if you really want to do something and you're not doing it. And in the last like 3 years of my programming career in the industry, I just started wanting to do other things than programming. Do you think it's possible to get a job as an iOS developer within a year of learning, self-learning? Or does that depend entirely on how fast and well I learn? I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. It really depends on yourself, really, Landon Hughes. Like, I mean, it's all about how fast you learn things and how much. It's all about being smart with your time and building out things that can impress an employer. If you can figure that out, then you can pretty much do anything. Keelan has gone, says that, are you planning to get an MBA in the future? So that's a master's in business administration. So a lot of people are realizing that getting your MBA isn't exactly the most economically efficient thing that you can do. So I myself, I really do not like school. So whenever someone tells me about their exams that they have to study for, like, oh, I have to study for my CPA, my CFA, my credentials, my license, I'm just really happy that I don't have to deal with any of that, because the things that I do, it's gonna sound like really pretentious, but putting out videos on YouTube, it actually helps out so many people immediately, right? So like thousands of people watch and thousands of people are affected daily. So that's how I want to allocate my time. And I find that me doing this, affecting people all around the world, that's what I want to have as my kind of little statement on the tombstone, saying that, oh, he spent his life doing this. And yeah, we're kind of at this turning point in technology where it's becoming much easier and also affordable to just sit down in my bedroom right now and make videos, and actually making a living out of it. It's totally possible now. Boot camps are suffering in New York City now, by the way. So a lot of boot camps are closing. A lot of software boot camps, a lot of mobile iOS boot camps have closed. I used to be a huge advocate for going to boot camps, and my stance on that has changed a little bit. And the whole thing about boot camps is that when you're trying to go to a boot camp just to get a job, you'll realize that jobs are not just jobs, especially in programming, because people are hiring you to actually build out features for their software that affects millions and millions of people. So if you're not ready to handle that task, then it's going to be hard to get a job. So, and also if you're going to a boot camp with other students that don't really want to be there, and that's going to happen a lot, trust me. The last boot camp that I taught at, there were students that obviously didn't want to be there to learn like development, and you can really tell that all they really wanted to do was to get a job, because a programming job pays a lot of money. So for those people, we just quickly kind of kicked them out. We just refunded their money and just told them to go somewhere else. And you'll find a lot of the people, those types of people there. And for 2018, I just imagine that there's going to be less and less boot camps in the world. And maybe that's fine. We don't need all these students graduating out of boot camps and having kind of not success or succeed in the hiring journey. Maybe that's what I'll call it. Have I watched Silicon Valley and HBO? I think I watched the first season or half of the first season. That's a really good show. I really don't have the attention span to watch anything on Netflix or TV anymore. The longest thing that I can watch right now is 20 minutes of anime, one episode of anime, and then I'll just kind of zone out and do something else. Other than that, the longest thing that I've watched on Netflix was the Dave Chappelle comedy special, and that was for like an hour and a half. So unless it's something really, really entertaining and engaging and thought-provoking at the same time, it's hard for me to just sit there for an hour to watch something. Like when I turn on a movie, either on Netflix or through other means, I can't sit down for more than half an hour. So Mike Varales says that, why aren't you planning to build your own app, or have I? So I've built plenty of my own apps that I've launched onto the App Store that have not been successful. And then you just realize that building out apps really requires a good team of people. First, you need a good idea. Then you need people to market your idea. And then if you don't have someone or this team of people that are dedicated to this one singular project, it's hard to keep going for more than a year or two. So everyone wanted to start a business excluding the channel as a business. Not really. I wouldn't say that I'm terribly interested in anything other than teaching right now. I don't really have the the tenacity to go out and start a company, to start an idea that is able to solve some aspect of the world or some problem in the world. So Murthy says that, at any point of your life, have I thought about giving up iOS development or even Android development? I mean, I've thought about just doing web and back-end server development, and there's plenty of work there. So, I can do that. After doing iOS and Android work for so long, everything really becomes the same thing. You put some view on the screen, you get some data from some server, some REST API, you parse it, you turn it into something, and then you show your screen on a view controller or some kind of activity. Other than that, I think 95% of programming is just that right now. Honestly, I don't really find it that fun anymore, but it's more of a task, or it's kind of a chore. So the only thing that's really challenging is back-end development and making sure your servers are responding fast enough. And that's why I build my own web platform for the website. That was a challenge that I wanted to actually learn about more and more. And yeah, it's fun to monitor how fast my servers are performing every day, seeing the response times decrease every time I release an update, and patch how the queries are actually being used. That's where I find the most interest in what I'm doing nowadays. Stanza bootcamps have changed as well. I find that students who attend aren't that good. They simply want a job and are actually not that passionate. Yep. In NYC bootcamp, students didn't get kicked out. Yeah. So what software do you use to put a phone demo on the screen like the iPhone Tinder app? So Nick Dog, this is just a simulator, and I use this program called OBS, which is open broadcasting software, something like that. And you just click on this little menu that says, okay, you want to show this window and this window here, and just drag things around. and then you have this layered broadcast, and that's kind of what it is. This is actually not my phone. I mean, I can hook up my phone to QuickTime and just show it on the screen as well, and that's how it works. Is the Instagram Firebase course a good project to put on your resume? I've got this question in the past. I don't really recommend people putting down the Instagram course as a portfolio project. And the reason is what I want to say here. So, I mean, I highly recommend people take the course, obviously. And the reason why I wouldn't recommend it as a portfolio project is because when employers find out that you have this really sophisticated and really well put together project, and they find out you kind of just followed a tutorial on it, they might think differently of you when they find out. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But again, I do highly recommend that you follow through with the course, because all you have to do is you want to take the course and you just want to modify it a little bit to fit whatever problem you're trying to solve, and that's all you have to do. So you simply want to take the concepts and then apply it to your own problem space. Self-driving cars, not too much into that. So how about Instagram Kotlin course? I don't know. Yeah. Do you have plans to have the Kotlin version of the Instagram course using Firebase? Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if that's going to get too much attention. Maybe it will, but I'll think about it. Yeah, so I'm trying to release a lot more courses for the year of 2018. So I don't know how much I can get done really. We'll see. Okay, so we are at the 1 hour and 12 minute mark. Thank you everyone for joining me in today's live stream. I really appreciate the feedback that I've gotten on some of these questions, and hopefully you have also learned about everyone else that's watching this channel and what kind of background they're coming from. I really enjoy programming. I started out really early, and throughout the years I've just gotten better and better at it. Looking back 10 years in the past, I definitely have improved a whole lot. And so, yeah, it just takes time. Don't give up too early. A lot of the things that you want to build out is possible. You just have to find the right resources that teach you the correct way of doing things. So again, don't give up too fast and just keep on coding and you'll eventually get there. So I will see you guys in the next live stream, probably next week, maybe next Sunday. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter at buildthatApp or Instagram, same name, buildthatApp, to follow what I'm doing every day. Sometimes I'll put screenshots of what the apps are looking like as I build it out more and more. So if you want to follow that, make sure you do that. And yeah, I'll slowly become a social media star. So I will check in with everyone next week.